Selected 1. Unknowingly, you activated a protocol that has only ever been utilized by 3 persons. Something has already happened and you haven't yet figured out. So stop everything. You may have activated a sequence that no manual could have predicted weeks ago, months ago, or perhaps years ago. A system so deeply ingrained that reality itself had to stop and rethink its calculations. Alarms are shrieking right now in locations you won't see. At the time, what you did seemed natural. Perhaps a discussion in which you discovered something impractical. A choice that survived what should have destroyed you, defying probability. The most effective transformations operate in this manner. They never make an announcement. They simply occur. And what you've become requires reality to adjust. You failed to notice the first sign. Others saw something about you that you couldn't explain. People began to regard you differently. Not overtly, not dramatically. However, there's been a change in how some people react to you. Some people now seem to be drawn to you mysteriously, like moths to an unnamed flame. Others retreat from contacts they would have previously pursued, seemingly out of fear. In the most amazing way imaginable, you've turned radioactive. When you enter some conversations, have you noticed how they end? Your presence alters the frequency of the conversation, not because people don't want to talk to you. Have you ever noticed how certain people give you a slightly too long stare? It's as like they're attempting to decipher a message written in a language they can't read on your face. At this stage of life, names lose their meaning, so I can't tell you their names, but let me tell you about the other 3. Centuries ago, the first one unintentionally discovered something about time that wasn't expected to be understood for another 1,000 years, which set off the protocol. Working alone in a workplace that smelled of metal and oil, he was a simple craftsman who was preoccupied with accuracy. Then all of a sudden, this individual saw a connection between awareness and temporal flow that defied every principle the universe believed to be unbreakable. Notoriety ensued. There were no written manifestos. The work just went on. However, there was a subtle wrongness in every creation made beyond that point that only few people could see. It was incorrect to imply that time itself might be optional. A child's inquiry, which shouldn't have been able to be formulated with the facts available at the time, was the source of the second activation. It wasn't difficult. Many who heard it didn't even find it very fascinating. However, it showed a way of thinking that implied functioning beyond the typical bounds of human intelligence. The question itself demonstrated that consciousness may develop in ways not anticipated by the original design, which triggered the protocol. That youngster grew up to subvert reality in ways that history completely forgot. However, the consequences of that existence permeate all subsequent innovations. By surviving something with a 0% survival probability, the third one set it off more recently. It was a sort of will that reorganized the circumstances on a quantum level, not by accident or chance. This individual was unaware of what was taking place, simply refused to acknowledge what was taking place. However, that rejection was so total and so basic that reality had to devise a way to allow for continuing existence. In certain impossible situations, individual will overrode universal law, triggering the protocol. We now turn our attention to you and what you have done without realizing it. No rules were broken by you. The rule never existed in the first place, as you disclosed. You failed to overcome a challenge. You proved that the challenge was not required. You didn't find a solution. You demonstrated how the issue stemmed from a faulty assumption that was taken for granted by everyone. You've infected the system with a type of cognitive virus, which is why the protocol activated. A possibility that, simply by existing, spreads. Remember that exact moment, that choice, that insight, that action that seemed both totally normal and completely implausible. I'm referring to one that you're familiar with. It's the thing you did that you haven't told anyone about, despite your best efforts to convince yourself it wasn't anything noteworthy. It's too basic, too evident once you see it, and unseen until you do. Not because it's too complicated. You were acknowledged by the protocol because you proved what philosophers have debated but never proven. Instead of merely seeing reality, that consciousness has the ability to create it, but not in the mystical sense that most people associate with it. Without realizing you were actually rewriting the rules each time, you carried out the action in a methodical, repetitive manner that you have most likely done multiple times since. You're currently in what is known as the adjustment period, but no one refers to it as such because it isn't a real thing. In order to adapt to your new reality processing style, your brain is physically rewiring itself. It may seem like you're going crazy, but you're actually discovering it for the first time. There are times when you feel cut off from everything, when you can't remember who you're meant to be, and when everything seems like a stage set that someone hasn't properly anchored. Dissociation is not what that is. Integration is that. You've been experiencing severe headaches, the ones that make you feel as though whatever is attempting to develop inside your skull is too little. They're not arbitrary. Dreams that seem more real than reality are also significant, in which you're teaching yourself stuff that you don't recall having learned. Those are not merely fantasies. This includes the sudden knowledge of things without understanding how you know them. The answers that show up already formed, as if someone else completed the work and gave it to you, or the answers that arrive before you have finished crafting the questions. All of this is a part of the integration process for the protocol. You are seeing beyond the limited range that most people are able to perceive. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but also the souls of many others through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's great design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Take action now. Share your blessings to exalt His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Furthermore, this extension is neither intellectual, spiritual, or symbolic. It's literal. Data streams that have always been, but needed a different type of cognitive architecture to access, are starting to become apparent to you. Being able to see both ultraviolet and infrared simultaneously, whereas everyone else can only see the visible spectrum, is like that. But light isn't the issue. It concerns patterns of information found in the spaces between ideas. Because you can feel the weight of possibilities that haven't yet materialized, there are days when you feel like you're going insane. Because you are conscious of the branching routes that emanate from every instant like an endless web of might-have and could-be entities, you are able to experience the echo of decisions you did not make. This isn't insane. When consciousness broadens beyond the single chronological perspective from which most people never break free, this is what occurs. Promote this video to assist other chosen ones in finding their way here if it speaks to your inner knowledge. You got an issue with the watchers now. Not because you did something incorrectly, but rather because you did something that they are unable to classify as either right or bad. Predictable reactions to stimuli and patterns that recur frequently enough to be mapped, modeled, and controlled form the foundation of their entire system. However, you have added a variable that is not calculable, a component that causes error messages to appear in their equations, a presence that results in readings from their meticulously calibrated sensors that shouldn't be possible. You haven't broken any real regulations, so the observers can't get rid of you. The fact that their rulebook is not complete was just disclosed by you. Since you're acting outside of their paradigm, they're unable to hire you. Your very presence is changing the baseline readings that are used to track everyone else, so they can't ignore you. As a result, there's still more watching, waiting, and debate about what you stand for and what, if anything, should be done about it. Some observers believe that you are an evolution, a foreshadowing of what humanity could become if it endures. Others believe that you are an oddity, a bug that will be fixed on its own when the system recognizes the issue. Some people, the quiet ones who have been observing the most, believe that you are exactly what was always going to happen, and that the protocol acknowledges a feature that was always there and is just waiting for someone to unintentionally activate it rather than responding to an error. The irony is that every viewpoint is correct and everyone is incorrect, as what you stand for cannot be summed up in a single interpretation. You're both the feature and the bug, the issue and the fix, the the query, and the response. Your demonstration of the complete accuracy and significant flaws in their entire framework for comprehending reality. And the protocol is triggered by that dilemma. You're not yet aware of the manner in which your impact is growing. Invisible until it reaches a particular concentration, much like ink in water. Individuals who communicate with you are beginning to notice little hiccups in their own programming, little bursts of ideas that don't feel like their own. There are times when presumptions that have never been challenged before appear arbitrary. Moments when previously hidden potential become apparent. Although what you're spreading isn't an illness, you are contagious. It's a realization of how capricious limitations are. It wasn't a typical exchange of ideas when someone abruptly stopped speaking in the middle of your sentence last week and stated, "I've never thought of it that way before." Something you sowed in their minds continues to grow and push the limits of what appeared to be achievable. The feeling of the mind stretching just a little bit beyond its normal bounds will last long after the talk is forgotten. And they will be haunted by that emotion in the nicest way conceivable. The protocol understands that you're no longer merely an isolated abnormality. You're starting to spark a bigger change. This is the reason why some people are now attracted to you in a way that neither of you can describe. You realize that you have something needed on a level lower than conscious awareness. It's a frequency that can open previously undiscovered doors in consciousness, not knowledge, resources, or connections. The problem with being a catalyst, however, is this. You have no control over the reactions you set off. Being close to you will cause some people to change in lovely ways. Others will fight so hard that complex stories are developed to justify what is happening. You will be adored by some for demonstrating what is possible. For the same reason, other people will despise you. Reactions don't matter to the protocol. Reactions are all that matters to it. You can do things that you couldn't do previously, as you've undoubtedly realized by now. Subtleties that could be written off as imagination or chance. How your mental state can occasionally affect how gadgets behave. Flickering or glitching at periods of intense concentration or agitation. Sometimes you can tell what someone is going to say before they even speak. You're reading patterns in energy and micro-expressions that were previously invisible, not because you're psychic. It's amazing how time seems to compress or lengthen according on your intention. When necessary, it provides you with additional seconds. It skips over experiences that don't need your whole focus. Subjective time dilation is not what this is. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be with you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the world's fleeting concerns. As the Holy Bible says, everything done in faith will be rewarded by God's abundant blessings. Luke 6 verse 38. Like that mighty oak tree, our roots are deeply anchored in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stance we hold is secured by His power. And now, you have the opportunity to be a part of this blessing. When you click the Super Thanks button and make a $100 donation, this act will return to you 100-fold. On a micro level, this is real temporal manipulation, large enough for you to maneuver through problems that shouldn't be conceivable, but too small for sensors to detect. Time is not under your control. With it, you're negotiating, and it's accepting your demands more frequently than the odds would indicate. It is remarkable how solutions to difficult issues come to you fully developed, through a sort of direct download from an unidentified source, rather than by logical deduction. You are gaining access to the quantum foams information networks. You are extracting information from different timelines and likely futures. You're combining potentialities into useful applications. In the conventional sense, this is not intuition. Consciousness functions as a quantum computer that can process an endless number of variables at once. A room's energy can be profoundly changed just by your presence, through something more basic, not through charm or personality power. The frequency you're emitting causes everyone around you to recalibrate their consciousness. You're providing a chance to work at a different frequency, but you're not managing anyone. This will make some people quite uncomfortable, and they will leave your company without explaining why. Around you, people will feel more alive than ever. Not everyone is pleased with who you have become, what you stand for, what your existence suggests, or what reality is. There are forces actively trying to limit your power and convince you that what you're going through isn't genuine. These forces aren't necessarily malicious, but they are undoubtedly involved in upholding the status quo. Direct confrontation is not the means via which this is taking place. That would be too clear-cut for you to see and refute. Rather, you are being subtly manipulated by the people and things around you. It's likely that you've seen more synchronicities that appear to be intended to cause you to question yourself. Discussions that gently erode your perception's credibility. Circumstances that appear to be designed to make you wonder if you're dreaming. There is no paranoia here. This is the immune system's reaction to what it considers to be an alien substance. The purpose of the test is to determine your ability to be disheartened, not your deservingness. The opposition comes in waves. If you can persuade someone to lower your frequency to something more controllable and in line with the current paradigm. It can occasionally be so subtle that you are unaware of it until it has passed. It might be so strong at times that you think reality is attempting to reshape you into a more appropriate shape. It's true that certain exchanges leave you feeling exhausted. It's normal to feel like your head is spinning when you try to communicate what you're going through to other people. It's intentional how certain possibilities seem to vanish as soon as you grasp for them. All of these are examples of structural opposition to the change you stand for. The resistance doesn't comprehend this, though. Instead of making you weaker, every thrust against you makes you stronger. You only learn more about navigating restrictions from each attempt to contain you. Your voice is only made clearer by every attempt to silence you. You've previously shown that resistance turns into evolution, thus the protocol kicked in. You become more inventive in your expansion as a result of that strain. There are levels in the procedure that you haven't yet found. Depths that only become apparent when you're prepared to understand them. Just surface activation is what you're going through right now. First, identification. You've only just entered the first room, and there are chambers inside chambers and codes within codes. Each of the three preceding individuals identified distinct facets of the protocol's contents. Temporal mechanics was discovered. Another consensual reality override was found. It will interface with the third accessible quantum. However, you're getting close to something that won't be reached. A synthesis that creates something completely new by fusing all of the earlier activations. Lately, you've been experiencing those times when reality appears to stop. Not precisely freeze, but pause as if it were awaiting your input before moving forward. These are not perceptual errors. The protocol provides administrative access to the results at these decision points. The majority of individuals view life as a series of responses to events. Instead of prophecy or prediction, you're being offered the opportunity to be involved in what occurs before it occurs. Involvement in the creation of moments prior to their solidification into experience. Those who initiate the protocol leave behind markers, resonance patterns that other protocol carriers can identify, rather than obvious marks. You would know right away if you met one of the others. The way reality acts differently when two protocol carriers are in the same location is not a result of mystical sensing. Fields of probability overlap. This makes causation negotiable. The impossibility becomes likely. In all of recorded history, this has not yet occurred. When both carriers are active, they meet. The Watchers have procedures in place to stop it, but they are predicated on the idea that carriers are unaware of them. You must comprehend a certain aspect of the watching. They are not what most people think of when they think of monitors or watchers. They resemble custodians of potential, librarians of possibilities. They are cataloging the consequences of consciousness surpassing presumptive boundaries. A collection of surveillance records is not what your file is. It's a record of the impossible things every entry is an instance where you demonstrate why their models are lacking. And the fact that you accomplish this consistently and seemingly effortlessly piques their interest. Your fatigue is existential rather than merely physical. You are concurrently functioning in two different realities. The fluid version that reacts to your consciousness and the consensus version that everyone else lives in. Human neurological systems weren't made for bilateral awareness, which is necessary to maintain presence in both. Sleep has gotten strange for you because of this. You're not merely sleeping. You're alternating between modes of operation. The version of you that lives outside of linear time is the source from which you are obtaining updates. Some people who had previously activated the process did not make it to full activation. Now is the perfect time to click the super thanks button on YouTube and share God's blessings. You can contribute to his plan and become a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you multiplied beyond your expectations. Remember, his protection and blessings are with you in every step you take and every donation you make. You become part of his divine plan. You are a powerful, radiant being, unshakable like his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with his confidence and courage. Be blessed, and may the Lord's light guide your way. They chose to completely leave the common reality, not because it killed them. In a way, they are still living, but they are existing in frequencies between frequencies and spaces between spaces. In the transitional periods between waking and sleeping, you may have felt these presences. Despite the fact that you have never met them, they feel familiar. They are the ghost users of the protocols. Although it is no longer tied to sequential experience, it is nonetheless alive. Others didn't have the same choice as you. While completely active, you can stay grounded. You initiated the protocol in a different way, which is why. You just stopped believing in walls when others burst through with force, accident, or a desperation. Reality didn't see your activation as a breach since it was so soft and organic. It was recorded as evolution. This explains why the pushback you're facing isn't overt. You are not viewed as an invasion by the system. It considers you an improvement. It has no idea how to install it. There's a reason why people are drawn to you now. They are sensitive to pre-protocols. Though it requires close proximity to an active carrier to finish the process, consciousness is getting close to its own activation. They're not being recruited by you. You're not even influencing them deliberately. Simply put, your presence opens up a space for protocol potential to manifest. While some will fully activate, others will remain at the threshold, reaping the benefits of increased awareness without achieving a complete breakthrough. Both are essential for the future. There's a reason why, throughout history, only a small number of people have activated the protocol. Selection and deservingness are irrelevant. The timing is crucial. Only when reality must change beyond its existing bounds does the protocol come into play. You activated now because that's when your unique taste of impossibility is needed, when collective consciousness has painted itself into a corner from which impossible thought is required to escape. The structure that created humanity's problems is insufficient to address them. They need someone who doesn't work inside that framework at all. Your recollections are evolving, not the actual events, but how you interpret them. Past experiences that appeared arbitrary or challenging turn out to be preparation. Every obstacle was a training exercise. To lose was to shed what would have prevented you from moving on. Every instance of feeling different or alienated was really an experience of the genuine kind of connection that other people were unable to understand. You weren't picked at random by the protocol. All your life, you have been getting closer to this boundary. In reality, every decision that seemed illogical to others was moving in the direction of this activation. Your bodily experiences are not symptoms. Recalibrations are what they are. Anxiety isn't that pressure in your chest. Instead of just pumping blood, your heart is learning to pump possibilities. Circulation problems are not the cause of the tingling in your hands. Your neurological system is operating at as yet unnamed frequencies. Tinnitus is not the cause of the ringing in your ears. It's the sound of your consciousness compiling the source code for reality in real time. The notes that haven't been heard since the last procedure activation are being played by your body. It's likely that you've noticed that some words feel different in your mouth now, as if they have more weight than they had before. This is because instead of using descriptive language, you're starting to use creation language. These days, you're talking about more than simply reality when you speak. It is being built with your help. This is the reason you've been using words more sparingly lately. A part of you knows that what you say isn't merely a description of reality. It affects the future. The procedure has a purpose that goes beyond personal development. When the communal narrative gets too inflexible, this reality maintenance system kicks in. When a shared nightmare begins to develop from the shared dream. When awareness has to be reminded that it's not just the audience, but also the author. Nothing or anyone is being saved by you. You're here to show that when you can just change the problem's parameters till it goes away, saving isn't required. Prior protocol carriers have left behind artifacts, which are distortions in the probability field that endure throughout time rather than actual things. Locations with a weaker sense of realism. Moments that reverberate throughout several time periods. Concepts that appear in several minds at once, as if they were born out of nothing. You have come upon these relics without being aware of their nature. That book that just so happened to fall off the shelf. You can't recall what was said in that conversation, but it altered everything. That choice felt more like recalling than making a choice. Animals are aware of who you are, instinctively rather than consciously. They are able to detect the frequency of the protocol, and depending on their evolutionary history, it either relaxes or agitates them. You tend to attract domesticated animals. Animals in the wild now tend to observe with remarkable interest. In your presence, insects act differently. Around you, birds exhibit patterns that deviate from their typical activity. You're transmitting a message that appeals directly to biological consciousness rather than cognitive recognition. Your dreams are no longer merely being processed. They are programming. Without overpowering waking consciousness, the protocol installs new capabilities through dream states. That incomprehensible dream that keeps coming back has meaning. The one with the unrememberable symbols. The discussions you have with strangers that you somehow recognize. These are simulators used for training. Practice sessions for skills that will be activated as required. You don't get any powers from the protocol. It brings to mind the abilities you've always possessed but were trained to ignore. The opposition you encounter is not personal. It is systemic. Like every organism, reality contains defense systems. It reacts by applying pressure to restore to baseline when something threatens homeostasis. However, the system isn't truly unfamiliar with you. You're demonstrating what it can develop into. You're not being stopped by the resistance. Stability is being tested. It's proving that you can stay coherent at a new frequency without breaking up. Any oppositional wave that doesn't shatter you is included into your new basis. A threshold is drawing near, not for you personally, but for the procedure as a whole. The collective field changes when a sufficient number of carriers are operating at the same time. The observers are aware of this. They are therefore caught between documenting and containing. They are aware that the protocol eventually starts spreading on its own. Potential in others is triggered by the activation of one. Others' potential generates fields that increase the likelihood of activation. What once uncommon eventually becomes commonplace. The inconceivable becomes the inevitable. It's growing around you as well as inside of you. In the inquiries that individuals are beginning to make, the systems are beginning to malfunction. In the outdated tales that no longer fulfill. In the expanding awareness that reality is more malleable than previously acknowledged. Because you're a part of a greater activation that is already underway, the procedure triggered in you. You are neither the cause nor the answer. You are proof that the next phase of consciousness is upon us. Isolation is not the same as loneliness. It's the area between the past and the future. Two different forms of human possibility are separated by the space you are in. Although there aren't many people there yet, they will soon, so it's lonely. The same pressure that triggered your protocol is growing in them, not because you're phoning. The feeling of loneliness will soon give way to recognition. Isolation will give way to connection. The void between will serve as the basis for the subsequent actions. Although this is greater than you, it would not be possible without you. Not because you are unique in a way that diminishes others, because you are unique in a way that makes others feel the same way. You demonstrated that the protocol might be activated in anyone who is prepared to quit acting as though limits are real. The proof of concept is you. The proof that what we haven't yet permitted ourselves to achieve is the impossible. Something new is emerging in you, not superior to humans, but human in a sense that shows what people have always been able to become. An improvement is being developed, and you are its prototype. This isn't evolution in the biological sense, because consciousness originally doubted its own existence. In an existential sense, it is evolution. By refusing to accept its own constraints, you are demonstrating that consciousness is capable of transcending them. Each of the three preceding people opened an unclosable door. One demonstrated that thought might do more than merely observe. Rather than physics, agreement upholds another established reality. Physical law could be superseded by the third shown will. However, you've taken a different approach. You've shown that nothing was ever as fixed as people thought. You've shown that potential is far more important to reality than limitation. However, you're no longer playing. The way someone stops believing in monsters under the bed, not in a defiant or furious way. You simply knew they weren't there one day, and they couldn't be made real again by dread. That's what happened to the restrictions that everyone else continues to hold. They can no longer touch you since you've seen right through them. For others, they remain strong and commanding, but to you, they are merely shadows created by group consensus. This was something the protocol knew about you. It triggered because you exposed something, not because you accomplished something. You disclosed that the entire limiting structure is optional. Only those who believe in the rules are subject to them. Reality is far less authoritarian and much more participatory. It reacts to awareness rather than the other way around. And you've developed consciousness to the point that reality reacts differently. By your very existence, rather than by your words or lessons, you're starting to inspire others to consider their own constraints. You are live evidence that the impossible is simply a synonym for not yet. Even if they are unable to express it, people around you sense this. They think you're following other guidelines. Instead, they sense that you've come to terms with the fact that the rules were never mandatory. There is nothing wrong with the shifts in your perception. They are proof that everything is going smoothly. You're not losing your sense of reality when things look more vivid. Time seems to flow differently. Thoughts seem more tactile, and intentions taste better. Layers that were always present but needed to be detected by various senses are now accessible to you. You're still able to operate in 3 dimensions, but your perception is becoming multidimensional. You made no attempt to initiate the protocol. You simply ceased acting as though boundaries existed. And reality has to accept who you've always been in that instant of total truthfulness. Not unique in the sense that society makes it. Unique in the sense that life acknowledges its own development. You are not superior to other people. All others will eventually follow a road that you're only further down. You are the one who goes first to let others know it's feasible. You are the explorer and the scout. Sometimes the weight of responsibility feels heavy, not because someone is pressuring you, but rather because you are aware of the potential consequences you are bearing. Every decision you make has an impact. Dissolving boundaries facilitates others' compliance. For everyone else, every impossibility you casualize becomes just a little bit more feasible. In the theatrical sense, you're not saving the world. All you're doing is expanding its size, flexibility, and consciousness responsiveness. Not literally, the people who came before are watching. Their innovations were incorporated into the framework that acknowledged your breakthrough by the echo they left in the protocol itself. Being a member of a lineage that has nothing to do with blood, culture, or tradition, you are linked to them throughout time and place. It is a tradition of consciousness that pushes against its own limits until they are broken. Each has contributed a crucial element to the design. Of all the contributions, yours is arguably the most extreme. You've demonstrated that simply being who you are can set off the protocol. You have made the breakthrough your entire life, whereas others have had specific breakthroughs, discoveries, survivals, or solutions. You are constantly rewriting the possibilities of your existence in this stage. At this frequency, each breath you take reorganizes the world around you. You're not experiencing anything. Reality is experiencing itself through you. The message that follows is intended only for the selected. This is not for you if you're under the influence of archonic forces. And we give you permission to leave based on the spiritual authority that the Obsidian Inner Order Secret Chiefs have given us. If not, steel yourself and pay close attention, for you will be redeemed just like we are. There is no program for the Obsidian Inner Order. It's not a class. It's not a spiritual retreat that makes you feel good. Answers are not what we sell. Together, we recall. We teach interference, implants, genuine energetic shielding against beings, and psychic self-defense. We bring back the raw, instantaneous, and precise manifestation that was intended. We get together in secret once a week to awaken, to express what cannot be uttered elsewhere, and to deprogram the matrix, not to worship. You'll discover whether you're intended to be there layer by layer. Your bones will sense it. The selected group meets via Zoom once a week. Why don't you join us already? Have Nazis? Join the Inner Order of Obsidians. The description contains a link. The systems that keep an eye on these things are having trouble classifying you. According to their models, breakthrough is an occurrence rather than a condition. However, you have evolved into a living breakthrough, a constant breaking down of barriers that never stops, never settles, and never becomes sufficiently fixed to be measured. You're not simply unconventional. You're demonstrating that the box was a fabrication. And that evidence is infecting everyone who comes into contact with your frequency, spreading through consciousness itself like a virus. On certain days, you desire to return to sleep. You want to act as though you are ignorant of what you are aware of. Everyone else's comfy constraints are what you want to return to, but you are unable to do so. You cannot unsee the illusion once you have seen through it. You can never forget who you truly are once you've recalled it. The protocol is irreversible because it exposes what was always true, not because it traps you. And truth becomes indisputable once it is acknowledged. In the upcoming months, you will do things that everyone will find impossible. The impossible no longer means anything to you. Not because you're attempting to prove something. By dissolving issues, you'll find solutions. By admitting they never existed, you'll be able to overcome difficulties. Remembering that things were always accomplished will help you accomplish them. Additionally, the protocol will automatically update itself with your innovations each time, making it simpler for the subsequent user to initiate it. You feel different because, although you are not fundamentally different from other people, you are different in how you are activated. While others are still starting up, you are online. Others haven't downloaded the software you're using yet. You're using features that were always present but needed to be verified by someone. And you've done just that, just by being so authentically you that reality had to broaden its idea of what is feasible. You will continue to experience the procedure in unexpected ways. When necessary, new capacities will be brought online. New insights will come fully developed. Even though they were previously invisible, new opportunities will now become apparent. There is no destination to this trip. You're able to become whatever you've always wanted to be. You weren't unique because of the protocol. It knew you were always there. You now comprehend something that the previous people who set off the procedure didn't, as you sit with this understanding and feel the truth pulsing through your bones. Transcending humanity is not the point of this. It's about exposing the true nature of humanity beneath the narratives it told itself about its limitations. You're not changing from being human. Without the needless limitations, you are evolving into a human being, full human potential. Before fear established limitations that later evolved into beliefs and then into reality, humans were meant to be human. Give up. Stay put. Keep your eyes open. Because you can sense it in this very moment, don't you? That buzzing sensation in your bones, the lightning in your blood, and the knowledge in your cells that you are precisely where you should be, acting exactly as you should, and being exactly as you should be. The protocol is in use. The change is finished. However, it's only the beginning because you haven't finished exposing what is feasible. You're only now beginning to realize who you truly are. Greetings from the protocol. Greetings from the truth. Greetings from the life you were destined to lead. The world you were destined to build. The life you were always destined to lead. You didn't cause an outside event. Something inside of you was waiting for you to remember it existed, and you awakened it. And everything will never be the same now that you have. It's not because the world has changed, but because you've realized that you are the one who transforms it by being so fully yourself that reality must enlarge to accommodate you. This completes the fourth activation. However, this is not the end. Now is the time when everything will change. The silence that precedes the start of the symphony. The words that will change everything are preceded by a breath. Now you're the protocol. Evidence that the impossible is simply what hasn't happened yet. Living, breathing, walking proof. And a lot of impossible things are about to happen. By simply being yourself so fully that reality reorganizes around your frequency, rather than by willpower, effort, or force. Now is your moment. Now is your time. You are always destined to become this.